Welcome back to another Bali COVID-19 update. My name is Bruce and this is for October 31st, 2021. Yes, we're at the end of the month. Still no planes, still no tourists, still quiet on that front. There's not a lot of new news in Bali this week, but there is about Thailand, and a lot of people are going to be watching what's going on there starting tomorrow, and I'll be talking about that. But first, and the big story for Bali is one of Bali's own has been nominated for CNN Hero of the Year award, and you can vote for him, and I'm going to talk about him in just a minute, at the link down below, and you can vote 10 times a day up and through, I think, December 7th. So, who is this person? His name is Made Janur Yasa, and he's from Ubud. He has a vegan restaurant. I've never been there. I don't know what it is. But he started a non-profit called the Plastic Exchange. And what's the Plastic Exchange do? It exchanges rice for plastic. So people bring in plastic and they get rice in return. He started this in May 2020. In response to the pandemic. He saw a lot of people were hungry, out of work, and well, the environment, if you've been in Bali, you know we have plastic everywhere here, unfortunately. We have plastic in the rivers, plastic in the rice paddies, plastic in the sea. There is plastic all over. And so, when he saw the situation, he said, I have to do something about this. And so he started a program where local villagers can exchange plastic for rice. It's a barter system. And they bring plastic in, and villages collect this once a month. He started out with his village outside of Ubud, and now more than 200 villages are involved in this, and he's fed thousands of people by exchanging this rice for plastic. So they get rice depending on the amount and the kind of plastic they bring in, and then the plastic is sent to a recycling plant in Java, because we don't have a plastic recycling plant here in Bali. The rice comes from local farmers, and so he said, we buy rice from the farmers, so we're really creating this circular economy, supporting the farmers, and then we also clean the environment and feed people in that community. And so this is a great program, one that's needed both for getting rid of plastic and for helping people that are struggling because of the pandemic. And so you can vote down at the link below 10 times every day until December 7th. Awards are given out on December 12th. So if you think this is a great project like I do, please give him some votes. And he would get an extra $100,000 to help continue his project and spread it throughout the island. Okay, so some good news, some positive news there. I really like that because sometimes we get pretty negative with all the stuff that's been going on, and things are looking up. The light at the end of the tunnel gets brighter and brighter. And what about the numbers? Well, the numbers are things to be bright about too. What do we have? 7-day average for new positive cases steady at 21, and the 7-day average for deaths steady at 1. New positive cases around the country 620, and deaths 27. So great numbers. How about testing? Yesterday in Indonesia, 156,340 tests were administered with 0.40% positive rate, and the 7-day average positivity rate is 0.40. What about tests in Bali? Well, last week, over the 7 days, 37,343 individuals were tested with a 7-day positivity rate of 0.40. as well. And so Bali and Indonesia both looking good. What about vaccinations? 3,416,221 with a 76.5% rate for first shots. And so this is staying pretty steady. We're not really making a big advance here, but I've talked about that in the past. Second doses, and this is a little worrying, 2,945,530, 65.9% of the population. And so the second doses are not going up as much as hoped. Why? Well, could be that people are just deciding not to get the second dose. Then there's people that don't want the vaccine. So we want to see those numbers go up, those second doses, and well, keep an eye on that. Yesterday, 7,310 additional doses were administered. And what about the Bali numbers for yesterday? 25 new positive cases, a little over our average. Recoveries 28, deaths 1, hooray. And active cases 309, so looking good on the numbers. What about Molnupiravir? I mentioned in a previous video, Indonesian authorities were in the US to talk to Merck officials about getting permission to manufacture Molnupiravir in Indonesia. According to the Health Ministry asserts Molnupiravir not game changer of COVID-19 pandemic. And so the Deputy Health Minister said that antiviral drugs such as Molnupiravir are not the game changer that people say they are. He said the game changer is a mosaic established from good health protocols, fast vaccinations, and qualified treatment. So, 3 things. You're not going to be able just to take a pill and solve the problem. Indonesia has targeted Molnupiravir as the drug that they want to manufacture here because it's based on phase 3 clinical trials that show that it can minimize hospital morbidity and reduce mortality by 50% in mild cases. And the Deputy Health Minister said that Molnupiravir is similar to other antiviral drugs such as remdesivir, which is already being developed in Indonesia. In the last video, I talked about the President asking for the tariff on the PCR test to be lowered because of the hardship that it places on Indonesian families. Indonesia lowers PCR test tariffs. So the government has officially lowered the cost of the PCR test in Java and Bali to 275,000 rupiahs, not 300,000 as the president asked. And other islands, the maximum amount will be 300,000. You might remember that at the beginning, a long time ago, the cost was 2.5 million per test, so we have gone way down. Will the decrease in cost be enough to bring in domestic tourists to the Bali for the holiday season? We just have to wait and see as usual here. More on PCR tests. PCR tests, really a big issue still. Health Ministry bans COVID-19 PCR test on hourly basis service. So the Health Ministry's Director General of Health Services, Abdul Qadir, said that there's a new price ceiling and also that laboratories will not be allowed to offer test services with results coming out in hours for an extra price, of course. He said, we do not allow and justify any price above the price ceiling for whatever reason, including that the results can be obtained in 1, 2, or 3 hours. So if you wait until the last minute and you need to get the results in 3 hours because you want to travel, or 2 hours or 1 hour, well, it's not going to happen. Well, not legally. The government regulations for the PCR test under the new policy say that the results need to be released within 1 day, within 24 hours. Pak Qadir said if there are violations of this, there will be sanctions. Lots of talk about the upcoming holidays, and tomorrow is November 1st, and so holidays are just a month away, basically, the start of the holiday season. And this article, government cancels Christmas leave to curb spread of COVID-19. So the government has officially erased the Christmas annual collective leave slated for December 24th in an attempt to suppress public mobility and avert another wave of COVID-19 transmissions. And so there was a problem last year, and so they're trying to avoid it this year. According to the Coordinating Minister for Human Development and Culture, Muhajir Effendi, the policy is solely meant to limit a bigger public mobility ahead of the year's end holiday. This decree also means that the state apparatus will be barred from taking annual leaves using the national holiday momentum. Members of the public who plan on traveling during the Christmas holidays will need to meet the traveling requirements, including a string of strict health checks, bringing a proof of vaccine or vaccination, and negative PCR test. So it's not going to be easy to move. This is going to hamper domestic tourism coming to Bali. It will if it's enforced. What's happening around the region in terms of tourism? Cambodia announces phased reopening to vaccinated tourists. And yes, here is another country announcing an opening. Beginning November 30th, Cambodia will allow international visitors to come into the country and stay quarantine-free if they stay for 5 days first in a designated area. Those designated areas right now, well, as of November 30th, will be Sihanoukville and Koh Kong on the Gulf of Thailand. If the PCR test is negative, then they'll be allowed to go to one of the predetermined destinations. Beginning in January, if the program proves successful, they'll be adding more destinations within Cambodia. Before the pandemic, Cambodia received 6.6 million visitors per year and $5 billion in revenue. Wow, I didn't know that they had so many foreign tourists. That's as many foreign tourists as Bali gets. So one more month and you can fly into Cambodia and be quarantine free as long as you start with 5 days in those two places. Sounds like a pretty good deal. And more competition for Indonesia. And more on what's happening around the region and more on Thailand, of course. So the airport, Suvarnabhumi, to welcome 30,000 passengers on Monday. Now, wait, this isn't 30,000 international passengers. So the airports of Thailand says that 6 international airports are ready to welcome passengers on Monday when Thailand opens up again. And it expects 30,000 passengers to arrive at the main airport. According to the Airports of Thailand president, new tech equipment has been purchased for all 6 airports and put in so that they can adjust to the new normal. And all airport personnel have been given booster shots to improve immunity against the coronavirus. Additionally, all agencies such as Airport Quarantine Office, the Immigration and Customs, have prepared drills to combat the virus at checkpoints. Air traffic data shows that the airport will facilitate about 440 commercial flights, 230 domestic and 110 international and 100 cargo flights on Monday. Let's compare that with Nuarai here in Bali. He said it's estimated that those flights will only take up 30% of the airport's capacity and that there will be about 30,000 passengers, as I mentioned before, including 7,000 from international flights. So it's not 30,000, 7,000, but that's 7,000 more than we're going to have on Monday. And the airport has procured 196 common use self-service kiosks to help passengers check in and drop their bags. And so they are ready to go, according to this article. It will be interesting to see tomorrow what things are like in Thailand when they open up. I'm waiting to see some videos from the airport and from travelers that get there. Now, I've talked about the airport being ready and expecting around 7,000 international visitors tomorrow. Well, Thailand Pass set for Monday. So the government is going to launch Thailand Pass system to fast-track procedures for foreign visitors when the country reopens. According to Bangkok governor, the capital is ready to welcome back travelers from overseas, and he said all residents have received their first shot of COVID-19 and 75% have been double vaccinated. Okay, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what he said. A government spokesman said that Thailand's ready to open with the Thailand Pass system, which is going to replace certificates of entry and reduce unnecessary paperwork. And I talked about the certificate of entry a couple of videos ago. That's out. The new Thailand Pass is in. The new Thailand Pass is a web-based system for both Thai and foreigners to fill in their travel and health information and upload related documents before they set off. Foreign tourists and Thais who wish to enter Thailand can register for the Thailand Pass online starting on Monday, and approval should take 1 to 3 days. Immediate approval will apply in cases where applicants' vaccine documents can be verified instantly using a provided QR code, provided the issuing company has supplied a public key so that Thai authorities can verify the document. How many countries have the public key? I don't know. Once travelers have received approval, they can download the Thailand Pass QR code to show airline and screening officers. They'll also need to prevent a COVID-19 test result from at least 72 hours before they travel. Once they get to Thailand, They will not need to fill out forms. They only need to download the More Chana application. Visitors from the 45 countries, is it 45 or 46? And Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, I guess that makes 46, are exempt from quarantine and will need to book a hotel for at least one night while they wait for the results from their PCR test that they get when they come in. Once they get that information, they'll be free to travel. According to a government spokesman, the situation in Thailand will be assessed every 7 days to see how the reopening is affecting the COVID-19 situation in Thailand. But the government spokesman expressed confidence in the vaccination drive and said that the remaining 25% of the population that has not been double vaccinated will be in coming days. So they're putting a big push on in order to get tourism. And that means that they've got a big jump on Indonesia if this works. And let's hope that it does, because we want to see every country get open and tourism get back to normal so that the economies are improved and especially all the local people that are involved in tourism get back to work. That includes my children. So Thailand is opening up tomorrow and everybody is keeping an eye on that, as I mentioned. And what about Pattaya? Well, Pattaya booze ban stays, operators peeved. So local tourism operators are upset that the city has been left off the short list of places where alcohol sales in restaurants are allowed. According to the president of the Pattaya Business and Tourism Association, Pattaya deserves to be on that list. And the list includes Bangkok, Krabi, and Phuket, but not Pattaya. The Thai Prime Minister said that authorities hope to be able to allow alcohol sales in restaurants and other venues nationwide starting in December 1st as the country gets ready for the end of the year celebrations. According to the president of the Pattaya Business and Tourism Association, Pattaya is going to lose an edge competing with other tourism spots in the country if they're not allowed to sell alcohol because, well, people come for vacation and they want to drink. He said the COVID cases in Pattaya lower than Bangkok, but Bangkok has the ban listed and he wonders why. Good question. Yesterday I was looking at a few YouTube videos on Pattaya and sure enough there were some bar and restaurant owners complaining about the ban and how it's going to hurt their business. I took a look at some of the videos and it looked just like walking on the streets in Kuta, unfortunately. What is happening around Bali? A magnificent mall will be built. Ex-Hardy's building flattening auction. So there are plans in Gianyar to build a magnificent mall, and it will take the place of the former Hardy's building, and that building is going to be destroyed, and so there's an auction that will go to the highest bidder to demolish the building. The head of Asserts Gianyar, Gustinura Krishna, said that the evacuation of the building's taken place and that it's going to be necessary to be very careful when they demolish the building because it's in the center of the city. Construction of the mall is expected to start next year, 2022, using regional loan funds. The region of Gianyar said that this is going to be a luxury mall. A variety of branded products will be sold. However, he noted, we only provide buildings later. They will be managed by a third party, while the products sold are for the upper class. Okay, what about the rest of us? More on what's happening in Bali. Task Force says compliance with wearing masks in restaurants and tourist attractions in Bali and Rio Island is low. What about face masks in restaurants? Spokesperson for the COVID-19 Task Force said that the level of compliance with wearing masks in restaurants and tourist attractions in Bali and the Rio Islands is still less than 60%. And according to this article, it's way less than 60%. This is based on Task Force monitoring of compliance with health protocols in the two areas. The level of compliance with wearing masks in restaurants and shops was recorded at 20.6%. And the level of compliance for wearing masks at tourist attractions in both regions was 9.9%. According to the spokesperson, we are still halfway through the pandemic. He reminded the public that they need to be careful and not too confident when carrying out activities without wearing a mask. The head of behavior change for the COVID-19 Handling Task Force, Sunny Harry Harmadi, said that the level of community compliance with a number of areas has decreased since October 12th. And this is based on monitoring by the COVID-19 Task Force. He said regencies, cities, and sub-districts that have a compliance rate of wearing masks below 6% are starting to increase. This condition is certainly worrying. Well, yeah, if it's below 6%. And he emphasized, like everybody does, that the pandemic is ongoing. It's necessary to stick to the health protocols in order to stop a new wave and to prevent entry of new variants. I'm not sure how wearing a mask in a restaurant is going to prevent the entry of new variants. And this is interesting because I'm not sure exactly how they're measuring the wearing a mask in a restaurant. So the way that I've seen it is you wear a mask into a restaurant, you sit down, you keep the mask on until your food or drinks comes, you take it off, and it's off until you're done eating or drinking. Then when you leave, you put it back on. So it's not on during the time in the restaurant. That seems to be the way things are going normally. Every time I've been in a restaurant since the pandemic started, that's what I've seen. And the few times that I've been in a restaurant, that's what I do as well. Are we supposed to take the mask down when we put some food in our mouth and then after we're done chewing, put it back up? I'm not sure. The mask in restaurants is certainly problematic. Anybody have any enlightening comments on this? Because the restaurants and the masks thing confuses me. Restaurants, mask and tourist attractions, no problem. You're at a tourist attraction, wear the damn mask. At this point, we know that there is still a 5-day quarantine. What happens if tourists show up in Bali and decide to try to skip the 5-day quarantine? Well, this article, Bali Task Force, tourists violate quarantine, immediately deported. The Secretary of Denpasar COVID-19 Handling Task Force, Imade Renton, said that visitors who come in under the quarantine policy, the direct flight, once it starts, if they skip quarantine, they will be immediately deported. Buck Renton said that there are 55 hotels that have been appointed with 11,734 rooms located in Sanur, Kuta, Nusa Dua, and Ubud, and that they will be supervised by local authorities to make sure that they're doing their job. And what will their job be? Their job will be to make sure that tourists who come in and under quarantine obey the protocols. At this point, then, we still have no visitors, but once people come in, they're going to be monitored strictly, well, according to this article, and we'll have to see how that works out. Time for a wrap-up. Nothing big going on in Bali or Indonesia this week. A couple things in the QR code. And, well, the big thing with the CNN Hero of the Year, make sure that you vote. And Thailand is really the big story right now because it's opening tomorrow. And if this works, well, it's going to be good news for a lot of countries. People are going to be watching from all over Southeast Asia as well as the rest of the world, I think, to see how this turns out. If the no quarantine policy works, well, that's going to put some pressure on the Indonesian government to try to drop their 5-day quarantine because it's going to put us at a distinct disadvantage in terms of getting tourism. If you do want to come to Bali, you can. You just have to come in through Jakarta. You can get the B211 visa with business listed as your reason. You do have to go through an agent. You have to have a sponsor to do that. Costs vary for that. I've seen around $3.5 million, but well, I don't know. Depends on the agent. And if you're going to use an agent to get in here, make sure that you check them out first. Make sure that they're a good one. You can come in then, go into Jakarta, quarantine for 5 days, hop on a domestic flight, get into Bali, and then you'll be free. So in a way, this is better than coming in direct under the tourism program because you get to travel around the country, anywhere you want to go. And I'm in the process of making a video now talking about different places that I've lived in and why I think Indonesia is such a great place to visit, but not just Bali, other places as well. What else? The weather is really hot. You might have heard in the background some screaming. Kids are out having boat races. They make these little sampans and they have boat races. This is because of the Prophet's birthday, big celebration yesterday. And today I have my family here. Wow, it's just, I went downstairs, I've got grandkids all over the house, and brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, son-in-laws, daughters. Only person that's not here is my son, who I guess is back in Denpasar working. So it is packed, and well, they went out to Arsani today, which is a little tourist area just to the east of us, and I gave one of my son-in-laws my Osmo Action and asked him to film it, and I'll see if I can put together a little film. You can see what's happening over at Arsani, and hopefully that'll be coming up in a couple of days. Okay, that's it. Thanks for visiting. Stay safe. If you're in Bali, follow the protocols. If you want to come to Bali, and you really want to come to Bali, best thing to do is to fly into Jakarta, deal with the 5-day quarantine. Because at this point, it does not look like the quarantine is going to be released. But this is Indonesia, you can never tell. And I think the government is going to be watching Thailand and see what happens. I know some people disagree with that, but that's just my feeling about this. And so we've got a month to go before December, and I've been saying December, December, December for a long time. Are we going to get planes here? There's still no plane schedule as of today, and I have not heard of tourist visas being given out by the travel agencies. I haven't heard about any prices either, or how long the visa is going to be. And so this is still up in the air. So you want to come. The weather is, well, the weather kind of sucks, actually. It's so hot, and it's getting cloudy, and so the rainy season is about to be upon us. But this is Bali. It rains for a few hours and then it's cool. And that's it for today. If you haven't subscribed, please think about subscribing. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, I know you will give it a thumbs down. See you on Wednesday.